the millionaire returned to sell the ruined farm and found a secret grave that destroyed his pride. Part 1. The rental car, a BMW 7 Series, because Garrett Mitchell refused to drive anything less, kicked up dust as it turned onto the unpaved road leading to what used to be his family's farm. Garrett gripped the leather steering wheel and tried not to think about what the gravel was doing to the paint job. 42 years old, MBA from Wharton, Senior VP at Goldman Sachs in Manhattan. Net worth north of 15 million. And here he was, driving down a dirt road in Appalachia like some kind of peasant returning to his roots. He hated every second of it. The farm came into view around a bend, or what was left of it. The main house, a two-story structure that had probably been white once but was now grey with age and neglect, sagged like an old man's spine. The barn had partially collapsed, its roof caved in on one side. The fields were overgrown with weeds and wild grass, decades of cultivation surrendered to nature. It looked exactly like what it was, abandoned, forgotten, worthless. Except it wasn't worthless. Not anymore. Garrett had received the appraisal 2 weeks ago. The land, all 320 acres of it, was sitting on top of a natural gas deposit, not a huge one, but substantial enough. A fracking company out of Texas was willing to pay $8 million for the mineral rights, plus a small fortune in royalties. $8 million for land that had produced nothing but poverty and backbreaking work for 3 generations of Mitchells. The irony was delicious. Garrett parked the BMW in front of the house and got out, careful not to step in anything that might ruin his Ferragamo loafers. The September air smelled like earth and decay, and memories he'd spent 20 years trying to forget. His phone buzzed. His wife, Claudia. "Are you there yet?" Her voice had that clipped, impatient tone she used when she wanted something. "Just arrived." "How bad is it?" "Worse than I remember. The house is practically falling down. The barn's destroyed. It's a complete disaster. But the land is still worth $8 million? That's what the appraisal says. Then demolish everything and sell it. I don't understand why you even needed to come out there. Can't lawyers handle this? I have to inventory the property, make sure there's nothing of value before we bulldoze. Legal requirement for the estate." "Fine, but make it quick. We have the Hamptons house closing next week, and I need you here to sign papers." "I know. I'll be back in 2 days. 3 at most." 2 days in that horrible place. I don't know how you survived growing up there. Garrett looked at the ruined farm, at the house where he'd been raised, at the fields where he'd worked every summer until he escaped to college. "I barely did," he said. He hung up, stood there in the afternoon sun, feeling the weight of the past pressing down on him. His father had died 6 months ago, Thomas Mitchell, 78 years old, heart attack, sudden and massive, dead before the ambulance arrived. Garrett had found out 3 days later. The county sheriff had tracked him down through old records, left a message at his office. "Mr. Mitchell, this is Sheriff Coleman from Harlan County, Kentucky. I'm sorry to inform you that your father, Thomas Mitchell, passed away on Tuesday. We need you to come identify the body and make arrangements." Garrett had made the arrangements. From New York, by phone, paid for a cheap cremation, had the ashes scattered, didn't attend any kind of service because there wasn't one. His father had no friends left, no family except Garrett, no one to mourn him, just an old man who died alone in a falling-down farmhouse in eastern Kentucky. Garrett had felt nothing, or told himself he felt nothing. His father had been a stranger for 20 years. They hadn't spoken since Garrett's mother died, hadn't seen each other in even longer. What was there to mourn? But now, standing in front of the house, Garrett felt something stirring. Not grief exactly, but something uncomfortable. Something he didn't want to examine too closely. He pushed it down, pulled out his phone and called the demolition company. "This is Garrett Mitchell. I'm at the property now. Yes, The one in Harlan County. I need you to come out and give me a final quote on demolition. Everything, house, barn, outbuildings. I want it all gone." He walked around the property while he talked. The fields were useless, too steep and rocky for modern farming. But the timber might be worth something. The company rep said they'd send someone out tomorrow. After hanging up, Garrett approached the house. The front porch creaked under his weight. The door was unlocked. Who would bother breaking into this wreck? And opened with a groan. Inside smelled like mold and dust and time. The furniture was still there. His mother's old couch, his father's recliner, the kitchen table where they'd eaten dinner every night back when they were still a family. Garrett walked through the rooms like a ghost visiting his own past. His old bedroom was upstairs, same bed, same dresser, same posters on the walls, bands and athletes from 25 years ago. It was like a museum of poverty, of a life he'd escaped, of everything he'd worked so hard to leave behind. His mother had died when Garrett was 22. Cancer, brutal and fast. She'd been gone within 6 months of diagnosis. That's when Garrett had stopped coming home, stopped calling, stopped pretending he cared about this place or the man who lived here. His father had never understood, had written letters, actual handwritten letters, begging Garrett to visit, to call, to maintain some connection. Garrett had thrown them away unread, had changed his phone number, had made it clear he wanted nothing to do with Thomas Mitchell, or this farm, or the life of poverty and struggle they represented. He'd built something better, bigger, a life in Manhattan with money and power and respect, a life where no one knew he'd grown up in Appalachia with dirt under his fingernails and second-hand clothes. And now, that life was about to pay him $8 million to erase his past completely. Garrett went back downstairs, started going through drawers and cabinets, looking for anything of value. Found nothing. Old dishes, worn silverware, photos he didn't want to look at. He was about to leave when he noticed something odd. The living room floor. There was a rug, an old threadbare thing positioned strangely, not centered in the room, not aligned with any furniture, like it was covering something. Garrett pulled the rug aside. Underneath was a section of floorboards that looked different from the rest. Newer, cleaner, a trapdoor to a cellar. Garrett had lived in this house for 18 years and had never known there was a cellar. He found the edge of the trapdoor, pulled it up. Below was darkness and a smell of earth and something else, something chemical. There were stairs, rough wooden steps leading down. Garrett pulled out his phone, turned on the flashlight, and descended. The space below was small, maybe 10 feet by 10 feet, dirt floor, rough stone walls, and in the center, a grave. Not a proper grave with a headstone, just a mound of earth, carefully shaped, with a wooden cross at one end. The cross had words carved into it. "Here lies my son's future." Garrett stared at the grave, at the cross, at the words that made no sense. What the hell was this? Who was buried here? Why was there a grave under his family's house? He was about to call the sheriff when he saw something else. A metal box, partially buried next to the grave. He pulled it out. The box was locked but old. The lock broke easily. Inside were papers, documents, letters, all addressed to Garrett, all from his father, all from the last 20 years. All the letters Garrett had thrown away or refused to read. His hands were shaking as he picked up the first one, dated 20 years ago, just after Garrett had stopped coming home. "Dear Garrett, I know you're angry with me. Angry about your mother dying, angry about growing up poor, angry about this farm and this life. I understand, I'm angry too, but you're my son, and I love you, and I hope someday you'll let me back into your life. I'm proud of you, proud of what you've accomplished. Proud that you got into a good college, proud that you're building something better than what I gave you. I know you think I'm a failure, that I wasted my life on this farm, that I never gave you the advantages other kids had, but I did my best. With what I had, with what I knew. Please call me, please come visit. Please don't let your mother's death end our relationship. I love you. Dad. Garrett put the letter down, picked up another, from 5 years later. Dear Garrett, I saw your name in a business magazine, an article about successful young executives on Wall Street. You looked good in the photo, professional, important. I wanted to call and congratulate you, but I know you don't want to hear from me, so I'll just write this letter and add it to the others. I'm happy for you, happy you've made something of yourself, happy you escaped the poverty that trapped me. I wish your mother could see you. She always believed you'd do great things. She was right. I still love you, still hope you'll come home, or call or write, but I understand if you don't. I understand that I represent everything you're running from. Your father, letter after letter, year after year. Thomas Mitchell writing to a son who wouldn't read his words, wouldn't acknowledge him, wouldn't give him the time of day. And then Garrett found a different kind of letter, dated 15 years ago, from someone else. A company called Apex Mining Corporation. Dear Mr. Mitchell, thank you for your continued employment in our deep mining operations. As discussed, your wages for the current quarter have been deposited directly to the account you specified. We appreciate your willingness to work the overnight shifts in the most challenging sections. Few men your age have your stamina and dedication. Please be advised that the dust levels in Section 7 remain high. We recommend using the upgraded respirator equipment available in the equipment room. Sincerely, Apex Mining Corporation. Garrett stared at the letter. His father had worked in the mines. When? Why? He dug deeper in the box, found more letters from the mining company, pay stubs, records going back 20 years. His father had been working in the coal mines. Not just working the deepest, most dangerous sections, the overnight shifts, the worst jobs, for 20 years, since right after Garrett's mother died, since right after Garrett stopped coming home. But why? The farm produced some income, not much, but enough to live on. Why would his father work in the mines? Garrett found another document, a receipt from Wharton Business School. Payment in full for Garrett Mitchell's MBA program, $180,000. The date was 20 years ago, right when Garrett started his MBA. Another receipt from NYU. Payment for Garrett's undergraduate loans, $95,000, paid off in full. More receipts. Garrett's first apartment in Manhattan. First month, last month, security deposit, paid by Thomas Mitchell. Furniture for that apartment, paid by Thomas Mitchell. Clothes, computer, everything Garrett needed to start his career in New York. All paid for by his father. Garrett had thought his scholarships and loans and part-time jobs had paid for his education, had thought he'd built his success entirely on his own merit. He'd been wrong. His father had paid for everything, every advantage, every opportunity, every stepping stone to the life Garrett had built. And he'd done it by working in coal mines, by descending into the earth every night, by breathing coal dust and risking his life in the deepest, most dangerous sections. For 20 years, to pay for a son who wouldn't even speak to him. Garrett's legs gave out. He sat down hard on the dirt floor next to the grave that said, "Here lies my son's future." Not literally a grave for a person, but a grave for all the money his father had earned, all the sacrifice, all the years of his life spent in darkness so Garrett could have light. Thomas Mitchell had buried his own future, his health, his comfort, his years, to give Garrett a chance at success. And Garrett had repaid him by cutting him out of his life, by pretending he didn't exist, by building a fortune on his father's broken back and never acknowledging it. Garrett picked up the last letter in the box, dated 6 months ago, right before his father died. Dear Garrett, this is my final letter to you. My heart isn't good. The doctor says I don't have much time. The mining took its toll. Black lung, heart damage, all of it. I wanted you to know the truth before I die. Wanted you to understand what I did and why I did it. When your mother died, I saw how angry you were. Angry at me for not having money for better treatment. Angry at this farm for keeping us poor. Angry at the life we gave you. And I decided that even if you hated me, even if you never spoke to me again, I would give you the tools to escape. Would give you the education and opportunities I never had. So I went to work in the mines, took every extra shift, worked the worst sections for the best pay, breathed coal dust and risked my life for 20 years. I paid for your undergraduate degree, your MBA, your first apartment, everything you needed to build your life in New York. You thought you did it all yourself. And in a way, you did. You had the intelligence and drive. I just removed the financial barriers, gave you the freedom to succeed. I never told you because I knew you'd feel obligated, knew you'd feel like you owed me, and I didn't want that. I wanted you to feel free, to believe you'd earned everything on your own merit, but now I'm dying. And I want you to know, not to make you feel guilty, not to get you to come home, just to know that everything you built, every success you achieved, was made possible by a father who loved you more than life itself, who sacrificed his health and future so you could have yours. I'm proud of you, Garrett. Prouder than you'll ever know. And I love you. I've always loved you, even when you stopped loving me, even when you were too ashamed to acknowledge me, even when you pretended I was dead. I loved you anyway. That's what fathers do. I don't expect you to forgive yourself for abandoning me. Don't expect you to suddenly develop feelings you don't have. Don't expect anything. I just wanted you to know the truth and to know that I died without regrets. Because even though you never came home, even though you never called, even though I died alone, I gave you the life I never had. And that was worth everything. Be good, Garrett. Be happy. Build something meaningful with the opportunities I gave you. And maybe, just maybe, think of me once in a while. Your father, Thomas Mitchell, P.S. The farm is yours. Do with it what you want. Sell it, develop it, tear it down. It doesn't matter. It's just land. What mattered was you, and I did everything I could to give you the future you deserved. That future is buried here, under the house, where I put every penny I earned, where I sacrificed my health and life so you could have yours. I hope it was worth it. Garrett read the letter 3 times. Then 4. His hands were shaking so badly the paper rattled. His father had paid for everything. Every advantage Garrett thought he'd earned on his own merit was actually purchased with his father's suffering. With years in the mines, with lungs destroyed by coal dust, with a body broken by backbreaking labor, and Garrett had spent 20 years being ashamed of him, pretending he didn't exist, building a life on a foundation of sacrifice he'd never acknowledged. He looked at the grave, at the mound of earth representing his father's buried future. Thomas Mitchell had died alone. No son by his bedside, no one to hold his hand, no one to tell him his sacrifice mattered. He died believing Garrett was too ashamed to acknowledge him, and he died at peace with it, died without regrets, died happy that he'd given his son a better life, even though that son had given him nothing in return. Garrett stood up on shaking legs, climbed the stairs, stumbled out of the house into the late afternoon sun, and vomited in the overgrown grass. Everything he'd built, everything he was proud of, everything he'd accomplished. It was all his father's gift, purchased with suffering, built on sacrifice. And Garrett had been too arrogant to see it, too ashamed to acknowledge where he'd really come from, too prideful to admit he owed everything to a man he'd dismissed as a failure. He pulled out his phone with shaking hands, called the demolition company. "This is Garrett Mitchell. Cancel the demolition. I'm not selling." The property is off the market. But sir, I don't care. Cancel it. Send me whatever cancellation fees. I'll pay them, but no one touches this property. Understood? Yes, sir. He hung up, called the fracking company. This is Garrett Mitchell. The mineral rights deal is off. I'm withdrawing the property from sale. Mr. Mitchell, we have a signed letter of intent. If you back out now, sue me, I don't care. The property's not for sale. He hung up on their protests, then called Claudia. What's wrong? She demanded immediately. You sound terrible. I'm not selling the farm. What? Garrett, it's worth $8 million. Why wouldn't we? Because it's not about money, it's about... His voice broke. It's about my father, and what he did for me, and what I owe him. You don't owe him anything. He's dead, and $8 million isn't enough. Isn't worth it. Isn't... Garrett couldn't finish. Just stood there crying in front of his father's ruined house. Garrett, what happened? What did you find? The truth. About who paid for my education. About who made my success possible. About the man I've been ashamed of for 20 years who destroyed himself to give me everything. I don't understand. I have to go. I'll call you later. He hung up, walked back to the house, to the cellar, to the grave marked, "Here lies my son's future," and sat next to it for hours, reading letters, learning about the father he'd ignored, understanding far too late what love actually meant. His father had loved him unconditionally, had sacrificed everything, had asked for nothing in return, and Garrett had given him exactly that, nothing, for 20 years. And now it was too late to apologize, too late to say thank you, too late to acknowledge the sacrifice, too late to tell his father that he mattered, that his life had meaning, that his love was returned. Thomas Mitchell had died believing his son was ashamed of him, and Garrett would have to live the rest of his life knowing he'd been too proud, too arrogant, too focused on maintaining his image to give his father the one thing he'd wanted: acknowledgement, love, connection. The sun was setting when Garrett finally climbed out of the cellar. The farm was bathed in golden light. The fields, the barn, the house, all glowing like something precious instead of something worthless. His phone was full of messages. Claudia, his business partner, the lawyers handling the sale. He ignored them all. Instead, he walked through the farm, through the fields where his father had worked, through the barn where they'd kept animals, through the house where he'd been raised, seeing it all differently now, not as a monument to poverty, but as evidence of love. Of a man who'd worked himself to death so his son could have more. Garrett found himself in his old bedroom, looking at the posters, the bed, the dresser, everything exactly as he'd left it 25 years ago when he'd gone to college and never really come back. His father had kept it like a shrine, preserved his childhood, held onto the memory of the boy who'd become a man too proud to acknowledge where he came from. There was a photo on the dresser, Garrett and his father. Garrett was maybe 16. They were standing in front of the barn, both sweaty and dirty from farm work. His father had his arm around Garrett's shoulders. Both were smiling. Garrett picked up the photo, looked at his younger self, at his father. Thomas Mitchell looked strong in the photo, healthy, happy, before the mines destroyed his lungs, before the work broke his body, before his son broke his heart. "I'm sorry," Garrett whispered to the photo. "I'm so sorry, Dad, for everything, for being ashamed, for abandoning you, for never saying thank you, for letting you die alone, for being the kind of son who didn't deserve your sacrifice." The photo didn't answer, just showed a moment frozen in time when father and son were together. Before everything fell apart, before pride and shame created a distance that lasted 20 years. Garrett sat on his old bed, held the photo, and cried like he hadn't cried since his mother died, for the father he'd lost, for the years he'd wasted, for the love he'd rejected, for the man who'd given everything and received nothing, and for himself, for the person he'd become. Someone who'd built success on his father's sacrifice and been too arrogant to admit it. Someone who'd valued image over family. Someone who'd let pride destroy the most important relationship in his life. He'd spent 20 years running from this place, from his past, from the poor farm boy he'd been. And in doing so, he'd run from the only person who'd ever loved him unconditionally. The irony was devastating. Garrett had achieved everything he'd wanted: money, power, success, respect. But he'd lost the only thing that actually mattered: his father's love. Not because Thomas stopped loving him, the letters proved he never did, but because Garrett had rejected it, dismissed it, been too proud to accept it. And now his father was gone, cremated, ashes scattered, no body to bury, no grave to visit. Nothing but an empty house and a hidden cellar and letters that would haunt Garrett for the rest of his life. His phone buzzed. A text from Claudia. "Coming home or not? I need to know." Garrett looked around the bedroom, at the house, at the farm visible through the window. Home. This was home. Had always been home. Even when he was living in a Manhattan penthouse, this place was home. And he'd spent 20 years denying it, erasing it, pretending it didn't exist. He texted back, "I don't know, need time to think." About what? It's just an old farm. Sell it and come home to our actual life. Our actual life. The penthouse. The Hampton house they were buying. The charity galas. The business deals. The performance of wealth and success. Was that actually living, or was it just another kind of prison? A gilded cage where Garrett hid from who he really was? He didn't text back, just sat there as darkness fell, in the house where he'd been raised, where his father had died alone, where the truth had been buried in a cellar, waiting for Garrett to find it. Eventually, he went back downstairs, back to the cellar, sat next to the grave in the darkness. "I don't know what to do, Dad," he said to the mound of earth. "I don't know how to live with this, with knowing what you did, with knowing what I didn't do, with understanding too late what actually mattered." The grave didn't answer, just sat there, silent, eternal. "I'm gonna fix this," Garrett said. "Somehow. I'm gonna honor what you did, make your sacrifice mean something, build something you'd be proud of instead of just making money you'd be ashamed of." He paused. "I don't know how yet, but I'll figure it out. I owe you that much. Owe you everything, actually. And I'm finally, 20 years too late, ready to admit it." Garrett stayed in the cellar until dawn, reading letters, learning about his father, understanding the depth of sacrifice he'd never acknowledged. When the sun came up, he climbed the stairs, made coffee in the ancient kitchen, sat at the table where his family used to eat, and started making a list of things he needed to do, changes he needed to make, ways to honor his father's memory instead of being ashamed of it. It was long, overwhelming, probably impossible, but he had to try, because his father had given him everything. And the least Garrett could do was not waste it on a life of hollow success and meaningless wealth. 3 days later, still at the farm, Garrett hadn't left, hadn't gone back to New York, hadn't returned Claudia's increasingly angry calls. He'd spent 3 days at the farm, cleaning, organizing, going through his father's belongings, learning about the man he'd ignored for 20 years. Thomas Mitchell had kept everything, every article about Garrett's success, every mention in business journals, every photo from Garrett's wedding, photos sent by Claudia's parents, because Garrett hadn't invited his father. His father had followed his career from a distance, been proud from afar, loved from the margins, and Garrett had never known, never cared, never bothered to find out. He also found records from the mining company, medical reports. His father's lungs had been destroyed by coal dust, his heart damaged by the strain. his body broken by years of the hardest labor imaginable, all for money. Money to pay for Garrett's education, for his opportunities, for his success. Thomas Mitchell had literally destroyed his body so his son could have a better life, and his son had been too ashamed to acknowledge him. Garrett was sitting on the porch when a truck pulled up. An old Ford, beaten but clean. A man got out, 60s weathered face, worn work clothes. He approached the porch cautiously. "You must be Garrett," the man said. "Thomas's boy." "I am. Who are you?" "Billy Patterson. I worked with your father at the mines. I heard you were here. Wanted to pay my respects." "Thank you. Did you know him well?" "Well as anyone, I suppose. We worked the same shift for 15 years, overnight, deep sections." "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Why did he work the deep sections? Those were the most dangerous. Why not easier work?" Billy looked at him like he was stupid. "Because they paid better. Deep sections paid double, sometimes triple. Your dad needed the money." "For what?" "For you, for your education. That's all he ever talked about. My boy's going to Wharton. My boy's going to be somebody. My boy's going to have the opportunities I never had. He was so proud of you." Garrett felt his throat tighten. "He told you about me?" "Told everyone about you. Had articles about you taped inside his locker. Showed photos to anyone who'd look. You were his whole world." "But I didn't." "You didn't visit." "Yeah, we knew. Thomas never said it directly, but we could tell. He'd get quiet around holidays. Wouldn't talk about his plans. We knew his son had moved on, left him behind. And he still paid for my education, even knowing I'd abandoned him. Son, that's what parents do. They give everything to their kids. Don't matter if those kids appreciate it. Don't matter if they ever say thank you. Parents give because that's what love is." Did he ever say he regretted it, working himself to death for a son who wouldn't speak to him? Billy shook his head. "Never. Not once. He'd say, 'My boy's doing important work in New York, building something bigger than this place, making something of himself.' He was proud right up to the end." "What do you mean, the end?" "The heart attack happened at the mine. He was working overtime, always working overtime, trying to save a bit more. Collapsed in Section 7, was gone before we could get him out." Garrett felt like he'd been punched. "He died at the mine?" "Yeah, still in his gear, still working, still earning money for you, I guess. Though Lord knows you didn't need it by then. Why didn't anyone tell me he died at work? Sheriff said you didn't want details, just wanted the body cremated and the estate settled quick as possible. So we didn't push." Garrett closed his eyes. His father had died in the mines, in the darkness, surrounded by coal dust and danger, working to earn money for a son who had millions and wouldn't give him the time of day. "I'm a monster," Garrett said. "Not a monster, just a man who forgot where he came from. Happens more than you'd think. People get successful. They want to leave the past behind. Your dad understood that. Didn't hold it against you. He should have. Should have hated me. Should have stopped sacrificing for someone who didn't care. But he did care. Even if you didn't care back. That's the thing about being a parent. You love your kids unconditionally, even when they don't deserve it." Billy shifted his weight. "I should go. Just wanted to tell you, your father was a good man, best man I ever knew. Worked harder than anyone, never complained, never gave up, and he loved you more than life itself. You should know that. Thank you for telling me, for being his friend. He didn't have many friends, worked too much. But those of us who knew him respected the hell out of him. He was special." Billy got back in his truck, started to drive away, then stopped, rolled down his window. "One more thing. Your dad had a favorite saying. Anytime someone asked why he worked so hard, he'd say the same thing. 'I'm planting trees I'll never sit under, but my boy will, and that's enough.'" He drove away. Garrett sat on the porch and felt the full weight of his father's sacrifice crash down on him. Planting trees I'll never sit under, but my boy will, and that's enough. Thomas Mitchell had given everything, his health, his future, his comfort, his life, so Garrett could sit under those trees, could enjoy the shade, could benefit from the planting he'd never acknowledged. And Garrett had repaid that sacrifice by being ashamed, by cutting his father out of his life, by acting like the success was all his own doing. He was worse than a monster. He was an ingrate, a coward, a man who'd built his entire life on his father's broken back and been too proud to admit it. His phone rang. Claudia. Again. "Where the hell are you? It's been 3 days. The lawyers are asking questions. Your partners are freaking out. What's going on?" "I'm at the farm, still." "Still? Garrett, this is insane. There's nothing there. Just an old house and worthless land." "It's not worthless. It's where my father destroyed himself to pay for my education. It's where he sacrificed everything so I could have the life I have. It's the most valuable place in the world." "You're not making sense. Did you hit your head? Are you having some kind of breakdown?" "Maybe, probably, but I'm also seeing clearly for the first time in 20 years. Seeing what my life actually is, what I actually am." "Which is what?" "A fraud. A man who built success on someone else's sacrifice and was too arrogant to acknowledge it. A son who abandoned his father and let him die alone. A person who values money over people and image over integrity." "That's not true. You worked hard for everything." "No, I worked hard, but my father paid for it. Every tuition dollar, every opportunity, every advantage I thought I'd earned on merit was actually purchased with his suffering, with years in coal mines, with lungs destroyed by dust, with a body broken by labor. He gave me everything and I gave him nothing." So what are you going to do? Wallow in guilt? That doesn't help anyone. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I know what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to pretend this didn't happen. Not going to go back to New York and keep living the same lie. Not going to dishonor my father's memory by building wealth on his sacrifice and never acknowledging it. You're scaring me. I'm scaring myself, but I have to do this, have to figure out how to make this right, how to honor what he did, how to become someone worthy of his sacrifice instead of someone ashamed of it. How long will that take? I don't know. Weeks, months, maybe forever. I can't wait months. The Hampton House closing is next week. We have commitments, a life. You can't just abandon everything because you found some old letters. They're not just old letters. They're the truth. About who I am, where I came from, what I owe. You don't owe anyone anything. You earned your success. Stop saying that. I didn't earn it alone. My father earned it, with his blood and sweat and destroyed lungs, and I took all the credit, acted like I'd pulled myself up by my bootstraps, let everyone believe I was a self-made man, and it was all a lie. Silence on the other end. "I think you need to see a therapist," Claudia finally said. "You're clearly having some kind of crisis." "I am having a crisis of conscience, a crisis of understanding, a crisis of realizing I've wasted 20 years being someone I hate. I don't understand this. I don't understand you right now. I know, and I'm sorry, but I have to do this. Have to figure out who I want to be instead of who I've been. And us? Our marriage? Does that matter? It matters. You matter. But I can't come back to New York and pretend nothing happened. Can't go back to the same life built on the same lies. I have to change, really change. And I don't know if that's compatible with the life we've built. So you're choosing a dead man over your living wife. I'm choosing truth over lies, integrity over image, being someone real instead of someone fake. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have right now." She hung up. Garrett sat on the porch, watching the sun set over the farm, over the land his family had worked for generations, over the place he'd been so desperate to escape, and realized he'd spent 20 years running from the only place that mattered, from the only person who'd ever loved him unconditionally, from the truth about who he really was. But he wasn't running anymore, wasn't hiding, wasn't pretending. He was facing it, all of it. The shame, the guilt, the terrible weight of realizing too late what he'd had and lost. And somehow he had to build something from the wreckage, had to create meaning from the tragedy, had to make his father's sacrifice count for something more than just Garrett's hollow success. He didn't know how, didn't know where to start, didn't know if it was even possible, but he had to try, because the alternative, going back to New York, selling the farm, continuing to build wealth on his father's unmarked grave, was unthinkable. That night, Garrett slept in his old bedroom, in his old bed, in the house where he'd been raised, and dreamed of his father, working in the mines, breathing coal dust, sacrificing his future for his sons, planting trees he'd never sit under, but believing, right up to the moment he died, that it was worth it, that his son would sit under those trees and be grateful. His son had been grateful, just 20 years too late. And that was a tragedy no amount of money could fix. 1 week later, Garrett makes a decision. Garrett had spent 7 days at the farm, going through everything, reading all the letters, learning about his father's life from the people who'd known him. The picture that emerged was of a man who'd been universally respected, hardworking, honest, kind, someone who helped neighbors, who volunteered at church, who never complained despite his hard life. A good man, a great man even, and Garrett had been ashamed of him. The realization was devastating. His father had been exactly the kind of person Garrett claimed to value in his professional life, someone with integrity, work ethic, character. But because Thomas Mitchell was poor and uneducated and disabled by coal dust, Garrett had dismissed him, had treated him like an embarrassment, had valued image over substance. It was the ultimate hypocrisy, and Garrett couldn't run from it anymore. He called his business partners in New York. "I'm not coming back, not to the firm. I'm resigning." "What? Garrett, you can't just resign. You have obligations, clients, deals in progress." "Transfer my clients. Finish the deals. Buy out my partnership. I'm done. This is insane. You're throwing away a 20-year career because of some family drama." "It's not drama, it's truth. I built my career on my father's sacrifice, and he died thinking I was ashamed of him. And he was right. I was ashamed. And that shame destroyed the only relationship that actually mattered. So yes, I'm walking away from all of it. To do what? I don't know yet, but not this. Not making rich people richer while pretending I did it all myself. Not performing success while ignoring the people who made it possible." He hung up on their protests, called his accountant. "I want to set up a foundation, the Thomas Mitchell Memorial Foundation, endowment of $10 million, purpose, providing educational scholarships to students from coal mining families in Appalachia, full ride scholarships. No loans, just grants." 10 million? "Garrett, are you sure?" "I'm sure. My father worked himself to death to pay for my education. This is how I honor that, by giving other kids what he gave me." "Okay, I'll draw up the paperwork." Next call, Claudia. "I'm not coming back to New York, not to live. I'm staying here, at the farm." "You're what?" "I'm staying. I'm turning the farm into something. I don't know what yet, but I'm not abandoning it, not selling it, not erasing it. I'm honoring it. And us? Our marriage? That's up to you. If you want to join me here, you're welcome. If you want to stay in New York, I understand, but I can't go back to that life. Can't pretend anymore. Can't be that person. You expect me to move to Kentucky, to a falling down farm in the middle of nowhere? I expect nothing. I'm just telling you what I'm doing. You decide what you're doing. I need time to think. Take all the time you need." She hung up. Garrett suspected he knew what her answer would be. Claudia had married a successful New York executive, not a man who lived on a farm in Kentucky. Their marriage had been as much about image and convenience as his career had been. Ending it would hurt, but pretending it was real would hurt more. That afternoon, Garrett drove into town, to the local community college, asked to speak to whoever handled financial aid. A woman named Sarah Martinez met him in her office. 40s, kind face, tired eyes. "How can I help you? I want to fund scholarships for students from coal mining families, full ride, books, tuition, living expenses, everything." Sarah's eyes widened. That's incredible. How many scholarships?" "As many as the money will fund. I'm setting up a foundation with a $10 million endowment. I want it administered through this college. Preference for students whose parents work in the mines, or worked in the mines, or died in the mines." "Why mining families specifically?" "Because my father worked himself to death in the mines to pay for my education, and I was too ashamed of him to acknowledge it. This is how I make that right, by giving other kids what he gave me and making sure they know where it comes from, who sacrificed for it, what it costs." Sarah was quiet for a moment. "Your father must have been an amazing man." "He was, and I didn't appreciate him until after he was gone." Don't let the kids who receive these scholarships make the same mistake. Make them write letters of thanks. Make them acknowledge the sacrifice. Make them understand what they're receiving and what it cost. We will, I promise. Garrett left the college feeling something he hadn't felt in years. Purpose, real purpose. Not making money, not climbing ladders, but actually helping people. Doing something his father would be proud of. 2 weeks later, the renovation begins. Garrett had hired contractors, not to demolish, but to restore. The house would be repaired, made structurally sound, but kept authentic to its origins. No luxury renovations, no granite countertops. Just a solid, honest home. The barn would be rebuilt. The fields cleared but not developed, maybe used for something community-oriented. A farmer's market, a community garden, something that served the people his father had lived among. Garrett was on the porch overseeing the work when another truck pulled up, newer this time. A woman got out, 30s, professional clothes, carrying a briefcase. "Mr. Mitchell, I'm Jennifer Hayes. I'm a reporter with the Lexington Herald-Leader. I heard about the foundation you're starting. I'd like to do a story. I'm not looking for publicity, I understand, but the story isn't really about you. It's about your father. About men like him who sacrifice everything for their children's education. About the hidden costs of opportunity. I think people need to hear it." Garrett hesitated. "What would you want to know?" "Everything. Who your father was, what he did, why you're doing this, the truth. The truth makes me look terrible. The truth makes you look human, flawed, but trying to do better. That's a story people need to hear." "Okay, but on one condition. You tell the whole truth, including the part where I abandoned him, where I was ashamed, where I let him die alone. Don't make me look like a hero. I'm not." "Fair enough." They talked for 3 hours. Garrett told her everything. His childhood, his escape, his success, the letters, the grave, the mine, the sacrifice, all of it. Jennifer took notes, asked good questions, didn't judge. "One last question," she said. "Do you regret your success? Wish you'd stayed here and worked the farm?" "No, I don't regret success. I regret being ashamed of where I came from. Regret cutting out the person who made that success possible. Regret valuing image over integrity. That's what I'm trying to fix. Not the success, but what I did with it. How I used it to hide instead of to honor." That's a good answer. It's an honest answer, only kind I'm capable of giving now. The article ran 2 weeks later. Front page, with photos of the farm, of Garrett, of the letters. The headline, Success's hidden cost. How one father's mining job paid for his son's MBA and got nothing in return. It was brutal, honest, didn't spare Garrett. Showed him exactly as he was, a man who'd built success on his father's sacrifice and been too proud to acknowledge it. The response was overwhelming. Letters poured in, emails, calls, some critical, some supportive, all emotional. People shared their own stories, of parents who'd sacrificed, of children who'd taken it for granted, of realizing too late what they'd had and lost. The foundation received donations, not huge amounts, but meaningful, $5 here, $20 there, from people who understood sacrifice, who'd lived it, who wanted to honor it. Within a month, the endowment had grown to $12 million. Garrett used the extra money to expand the scholarships, to add support services, mentoring, job placement, everything students from mining families needed to succeed. And every scholarship recipient had to do one thing: write a letter to their parents, thanking them, acknowledging their sacrifice, making sure they didn't make Garrett's mistake of taking it for granted. 3 months later, Claudia makes her choice. Claudia came to visit, first time since Garrett had stayed at the farm. She drove up in her Mercedes, looking out of place in the rural setting. Garrett met her on the porch. The house was being renovated around them. Contractors everywhere. Noise and dust and the smell of fresh lumber. "It's different," she said, looking around. "The house, the land, you, everything's different. Are you happy?" "I don't know if happy is the right word, but I'm at peace. For the first time in 20 years. I'm doing something that matters, something my father would be proud of. That's enough. I read the article about your father, the mine, the sacrifice. And I understand now why you stayed, why you couldn't come back. It wasn't about the farm. It was about understanding who you really are, where you really came from." "Exactly. I'm filing for divorce." The words hung in the air, expected but still painful. "I thought you might. Not because I don't love you. I do in my way. But I married a different person, someone ambitious and driven and focused on success. This person," she gestured at Garrett in his work clothes, dirty from helping with renovations. "This isn't who I married. No, it's who I was before I forgot. The farm boy, the coal miner's son, the person I spent 20 years being ashamed of. I can't live here, can't be part of this life. It's too different from what I want, what I need. I know, and I don't blame you. Our marriage was built on a false foundation, on me pretending to be someone I wasn't. That's my fault, not yours. What will you do after the divorce? Keep building the foundation, the farm, a life that honors my father instead of hiding from him. It's all I can do. I hope it makes you happy." "It won't, but it'll give me purpose, and that's better than happiness built on lies." They worked out the details over the next few days. Amicable divorce, fair split of assets, no fighting, just two people acknowledging that they'd built a life on a foundation that had crumbled. When Claudia left, Garrett felt sadness, but also relief. Relief that he didn't have to pretend anymore. Didn't have to be the successful New York executive, could just be himself, whoever that was. 6 months later, the first scholarship recipients. The Thomas Mitchell Memorial Foundation awarded its first scholarships. 20 students, all from coal mining families in eastern Kentucky, full rides to college, everything paid for. Named in honor of Thomas Mitchell, who'd worked himself to death to give his son the same opportunity. Garrett attended the award ceremony, spoke to the students, told them his father's story, told them his own story, didn't hide the shame or the regret. "My father destroyed his lungs in coal mines so I could go to college," Garrett said, "and I repaid him by being ashamed, by cutting him out of my life, by acting like I'd earned my success all by myself. Don't make my mistake. Honor your parents. Acknowledge their sacrifice. Thank them while they're still alive to hear it. One student, a girl named Emma, whose father still worked the mines, raised her hand. What if we're ashamed? What if we want to escape? What if we don't want to be reminded of where we came from? Garrett looked at her, saw himself at 18, desperate to escape, desperate to be someone else. Then escape. Build something bigger. Succeed, but don't forget. Don't erase. Don't pretend your success is all your own, because it's not. It's built on their sacrifice. And forgetting that, being ashamed of that, that's the real failure. Not poverty, not humble origins, but forgetting the people who made your success possible. After the ceremony, several students came up to thank him, to tell him about their parents, to share their stories. Each one reminded Garrett of his father, of the sacrifice, of the love that asked for nothing in return, and each one made him more determined to build something that mattered. Something that honored Thomas Mitchell's memory, something that made sure other kids didn't take their parents' sacrifices for granted the way he had. 1 year later, the grave is moved. Garrett had the cellar excavated properly, hired archaeologists to do it right, to preserve everything. The grave, the mound of earth marked, "Here lies my son's future," wasn't actually a burial site. It was symbolic, but it needed to be honored. Garrett had it moved to a prominent place on the farm, where anyone visiting could see it, could understand what it represented. He commissioned a proper monument, stone, carved with his father's words from the letters, "I'm planting trees I'll never sit under, but my boy will." And that's enough. Thomas Mitchell, 1946-2024. Who sacrificed everything so his son could have everything. The monument was unveiled at a ceremony attended by mining families, scholarship recipients, and people who'd known Thomas. Billy Patterson spoke. "Thomas was my friend for 15 years. Worked harder than any man I knew, never complained, never gave up. And he loved his son more than life itself. This monument is fitting, but the real monument is those kids." He pointed to the scholarship recipients. Getting opportunities because of what Thomas did. That's what he'd want. That's what mattered to him. Garrett spoke last. "My father gave me everything, and I gave him nothing. I can't undo that, can't bring him back, can't apologize. Can't make it right. But I can honor his memory, can make sure his sacrifice means something, can help other kids avoid my mistake of taking their parents for granted. This farm used to represent shame to me, poverty, everything I wanted to escape. Now it represents love, sacrifice, everything that actually matters. My father planted trees here, not literal trees, but the seeds of opportunity, of education, of a better life. And I'm sitting under those trees, finally acknowledging where they came from, finally understanding what they cost. I was ashamed of my father for 20 years. Now I'm ashamed of myself. Ashamed I waited so long to see the truth. Ashamed I let him die thinking I didn't care. Ashamed I built an empire on his broken back and never said thank you. But shame without action is useless. So I'm acting, building, creating opportunities for others, making sure the trees my father planted keep growing, keep providing shade, keep giving life. That's all I can do, and I'll do it for the rest of my life because I owe him everything, and the only way to repay that debt is to pay it forward. After the ceremony, Garrett stood alone by the monument, by the symbolic grave of his father's sacrifice. "I'm sorry, Dad," he said quietly. "Sorry I was too proud to see the truth. Sorry I wasted 20 years being ashamed instead of grateful. Sorry you died thinking I didn't care. But I'm building something now. Something you'd be proud of. Something that honors what you did. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that makes your sacrifice worth it." The wind rustled through the trees, Real trees this time, planted around the monument, growing slowly but surely, providing shade for a future Garrett wouldn't see but was helping to create, just like his father had done for him. The renovation of the farmhouse took 8 months. Garrett oversaw every detail, working alongside the contractors, learning the carpentry and masonry his father had known. His hands developed calluses, his back ached. His expensive clothes were replaced with work boots and jeans. He was 43 years old and learning manual labor for the first time since he'd escaped to college. It felt like coming home. One afternoon, the contractor called him over. "Mr. Mitchell, we found something. In the wall. Behind the plaster in your father's bedroom." Garrett followed him upstairs. They'd been removing damaged plaster, preparing to re-insulate. Behind one wall, tucked into the studs, was a metal box. Smaller than the one in the cellar. Older, covered in dust. "Want me to open it?" the contractor asked. "No, I'll do it." Garrett carried the box downstairs, set it on the kitchen table, the same table where his family had eaten dinner for years. His hands were shaking as he pried it open. Inside were more letters, but these weren't from his father to him. These were from his mother to his father, written during her final months, when the cancer was destroying her. Garrett picked up the first one, dated 23 years ago, 3 weeks before she died. "My dearest Thomas, the doctor says I have weeks, maybe days. The pain is unbearable, but I don't want to spend our last time together talking about dying. I want to talk about Garrett. Our boy is struggling. I see it even through the morphine haze. He's angry at the world, angry at me for getting sick, angry at you for not having money to save me, angry at this farm, this life, everything. He's going to leave, Thomas. After I'm gone, he's going to run from here as fast as he can. Run from you, from the poverty, from the pain of losing me, and you have to let him go. Don't chase him. Don't beg him to stay. Don't make him feel guilty. Let him escape. Let him build something bigger than this place. But here's what I'm asking you, my love. Don't let him fail. I know we don't have money. I know the farm barely makes enough to survive. But Garrett has potential, real potential. He could do something important if he just had the opportunities we never had. So give them to him. Even if he runs, even if he never calls, even if he's ashamed of us, give him the tools to succeed. I don't care how you do it. I don't care what you have to sacrifice. Just make sure our boy gets his chance. Promise me, Thomas. Promise me you'll give Garrett everything he needs to escape this place, to build something better, to have the life we always dreamed our child would have, even if it costs you everything. Even if he never thanks you, even if he forgets us completely, promise me you'll give him his chance. That's all I ask. That's my dying wish. Make sure our son doesn't get trapped here like we were. Make sure he flies. I love you, Thomas. You're the best man I've ever known. And whatever you have to do to keep this promise, whatever sacrifices you make, I'll be watching from wherever I am. And I'll be proud of you. Always. Margaret Garrett read the letter 3 times. His hands were shaking so hard he could barely hold the paper. His mother had asked his father to sacrifice, had made it her dying wish, had begged Thomas to give Garrett opportunities even if Garrett abandoned them. And Thomas had done it, had honored that promise, had worked himself to death in coal mines to fulfill his wife's final request, not because he wanted recognition, not because he expected gratitude, but because he'd loved Margaret and had promised her on her deathbed that their son would have his chance. Garrett picked up another letter, written days before his mother died. "Thomas, I'm writing this on a good day. The morphine is working and I can think clearly enough to put words on paper. I need to tell you something important. Don't mourn me too long. Don't spend the rest of your life alone. Don't sacrifice your happiness for a memory. Find someone else, my love. Remarry. Have a companion. You're only 55. You have years ahead of you. Don't waste them being lonely. I know you'll say no. No, you'll say I was the love of your life and you could never replace me. And that's sweet, but it's also foolish. Life is for the living, and I want you to live, really live, not just exist. So promise me this, after Garrett is settled, after you've given him his opportunities, take care of yourself. Find happiness. Don't die alone and lonely in this house. That's not what I want for you. That's not the legacy I want to leave. I want you to live, Thomas, to be happy, to find joy even after I'm gone. Promise me, with all my love. Margaret Garrett put the letter down, felt tears streaming down his face. His mother had told his father to remarry, to find happiness, to not waste his life mourning. And what had Thomas done? Spent 23 years alone, never dated, never sought companionship, just worked in the mines and saved money for Garrett and died alone in the darkness. Had Thomas felt bound by the first promise to give Garrett everything? Had he decided that meant sacrificing his own happiness, his own future? Or had he simply loved Margaret so much he couldn't imagine being with anyone else? Garrett would never know. He read through more letters, each one from Margaret, each one revealing the depth of their love, the strength of their partnership, the sacrifices they'd both been willing to make for their son. And at the bottom of the box, a final letter, in Thomas's handwriting, but not addressed to Garrett, addressed to Margaret. My dearest Margaret, it's been 20 years since you left me, 20 years of missing you, 20 years of keeping the promises I made to you. I kept the first promise. I gave Garrett everything, every penny I could save, every opportunity I could buy. I worked the mines like you asked, destroyed my lungs like you predicted, and I don't regret it. Our boy succeeded. He's a vice president at Goldman Sachs, makes more money than I can imagine, lives in Manhattan in a fancy apartment, married a senator's daughter. He's everything we hoped he'd be, everything you wanted for him. He's also exactly what you feared. He ran from us, from me, from this place. He's ashamed of where he came from, ashamed of his poor father, ashamed of the farm. He hasn't called in 15 years, hasn't visited in longer. I don't think he even knows if I'm alive or dead, but I kept my promise to you. I gave him his chance, and he took it, and he flew. That's what you wanted, so I'm at peace with it. As for your second promise, the one about remarrying and finding happiness, I couldn't keep that one, my love. Not because I didn't try. I dated a few women over the years. Nice women, good women, women who could have made me happy, but every time I got close to someone, I'd think of you, of our life together, of the love we had, and I couldn't do it, couldn't replace you, couldn't pretend anyone else could fill the hole you left, so I stayed alone. I know you didn't want that, I know you'd be disappointed, but I couldn't help it. You were my person, Margaret, my only person, and losing you took something from me I could never get back. But I wasn't unhappy. I had my work, I had my purpose, giving Garrett his future. I had memories of you, and that was enough. I'm dying now. The doctor says my heart is giving out, the lungs are shot. I have weeks at most, and I'm ready to see you again, ready to tell you I kept my promise, that Garrett succeeded, that our sacrifice meant something. He'll never know what we did for him, he'll never thank us, he'll never acknowledge the cost. But that's okay, because we didn't do it for thanks. We did it for love, and that's enough. I'll see you soon, my love. Save a spot for me wherever you are, and I'll tell you all about our boy, about the empire he built on our broken backs, about the success he achieved with the opportunities we gave him. He may be ashamed of us, but we're proud of him, and that's what matters. Your loving husband, Thomas P.S. I know Garrett will find these letters someday, after I'm gone, after he comes back to settle the estate. And I hope, I pray, that reading them will help him understand, not to forgive us. We don't need forgiveness for loving him, but to understand that love costs something, that every opportunity has a price, that his success wasn't free. It was purchased with our sacrifice, and maybe, just maybe, he'll use that understanding to build something meaningful, something that honors what we did, something that makes the sacrifice worth it. I believe in you, son, even when you don't believe in me. And I love you, always have, always will, even from beyond the grave. Dad Garrett read his father's final letter to his mother 5 times, each reading destroying him a little more. His parents had both sacrificed for him. Both loved him unconditionally. Both hoped he'd succeed, even if it meant losing him. And he'd repaid their sacrifice with shame, with abandonment, with 20 years of silence. His mother had died hoping he'd escape and succeed. Her wish had come true. His father had died hoping Garrett would understand and acknowledge the cost. That wish had come true too, just 20 years too late. Garrett sat at the kitchen table surrounded by letters and understood something profound. His parents had loved him more than he'd ever loved anyone, more than he'd loved his career, his money, his image, even his wife. They'd loved him sacrificially, unconditionally, without expecting anything in return, and he'd never learned how to love that way. Had never understood what real love looked like until now, until it was too late to tell them. 2 weeks later, Garrett meets someone from his father's past. Garrett was working on the farm, actual physical work, clearing brush from the fields, when a car pulled up. An older woman got out, 70s, well-dressed, kind face. "Are you Garrett?" she asked. "I am. Can I help you?" "I'm Dorothy Henderson. I knew your father. I wanted to pay my respects. I'm sorry I couldn't make it to any service. I didn't know he'd passed until I read the article about the foundation. There wasn't really a service, just a cremation. I didn't..." Garrett stopped. "I didn't think anyone would come. Your father had more friends than you might think. He was private, quiet, but people respected him." "How did you know him?" Dorothy smiled sadly. "We dated. About 15 years ago, for nearly 2 years. Garrett stared. "Dated? My father dated you?" "Yes. We met at church. He was kind, intelligent, funny. We had a wonderful time together. I hoped we might get married." "What happened?" "He ended it. Gently, kindly, but definitively. Said he couldn't give me what I deserved. Said his heart belonged to someone else." "My mother?" "Yes. Even 20 years after her death, he couldn't move on. Couldn't let go. I understood, but it hurt. I cared for him deeply. I'm sorry. That must have been difficult." "It was. But I respected his honesty. Respected his loyalty to your mother's memory. That kind of love is rare." She paused. "He talked about you sometimes, about how proud he was of you, how you'd escaped this place and built something important." "He said that?" "All the time. He'd show me articles about you, photos from business magazines. He kept track of everything you did, even though..." She stopped. "Even though I never called, never visited, never acknowledged him." Yes, he was hurt by it. I could tell. But he never spoke badly of you, never expressed anger, just said you were busy, building your career, living your life. That's generous. I was a terrible son. You were a young man trying to escape poverty. Your father understood that, forgave it, loved you anyway. Why are you telling me this? Because I want you to know he wasn't alone his whole life. He had people who cared about him, who would have been there for him if he'd let them. He chose to be alone. That was his choice, not something forced on him by your absence. That doesn't make me feel better. It's not supposed to. It's supposed to give you the full picture. Your father was a complete person, not just a victim of your neglect. He had agency, made choices, lived his life according to his own values. Dorothy reached into her purse, pulled out a photo. "He gave me this. Said it was his favorite picture. I thought you might want it." The photo showed Garrett and his father. Garrett was maybe 8 years old. They were fishing in a creek, both smiling, happy, together, before everything fell apart, before Margaret got sick, before Garrett learned to be ashamed. "Keep it," Dorothy said. "Remember your father as he was, not just as the man who sacrificed for you, but as a complete human being who loved and laughed and lived." She got back in her car and left. Garrett stood in the field holding the photo and realized something important. He'd been defining his father entirely by his sacrifice, by what he'd given up, by how he'd suffered. But Thomas Mitchell had been more than that, had been a whole person with his own dreams, relationships, choices. A man who'd loved Margaret so deeply he couldn't move on. A man who'd chosen solitude over settling. A man who'd built a life of meaning even in poverty. Garrett had reduced him to a martyr, a victim, a sacrifice. But Thomas had been a man, complex, complete, worthy of respect, not just for what he'd given, but for who he'd been. And Garrett was finally beginning to see that. 6 months later, the foundation expands. The Thomas Mitchell Memorial Foundation had awarded scholarships to 80 students. Full rides, books, tuition, housing, everything. But Garrett realized scholarships weren't enough. These kids needed more: mentoring, support, guidance navigating a world their parents didn't understand. So he expanded the program, hired counselors, created a summer program where scholarship recipients could come to the farm, meet each other, build community. The farm became a hub. The renovated house served as a meeting space. The rebuilt barn was converted to dormitories. The fields hosted workshops on everything from financial literacy to job interview skills. Garrett poured money into it. Not just the foundation endowment, but his own savings, his investments, everything. Claudia had taken half in the divorce. He'd kept the other half, about $7 million after taxes and lawyer fees. He donated $6 million to the foundation, kept $1 million for himself, to live on, to cover expenses. It was more than he needed, more than his father had ever dreamed of having, and it was the least Garrett could do. The first summer program hosted 30 students. They came from all over Appalachia. Kids whose parents worked in mines, or had died in mines, or had been disabled by mines. Kids who looked like Garrett had at 18, desperate to escape, ashamed of where they'd come from, running toward a future they hoped would erase their past. Garrett told them his story, all of it: the shame, the abandonment, the letters he'd found, the father who'd died alone. "Don't make my mistake," he said. "Don't run so fast from where you came from that you forget the people who made your running possible. Success built on shame is hollow. Success built on gratitude is meaningful." One student, a boy named Marcus, whose father had black lung, raised his hand. "But what if we are ashamed? What if we don't want to remember? What if the poverty and struggle hurt too much?" "Then remember this," Garrett said. "Your parents' poverty isn't your identity. Their struggle isn't your failure. Their sacrifice isn't your shame. It's your foundation. It's proof that you're loved, that someone valued your future more than their comfort. That's not something to hide. That's something to honor." How? By succeeding without forgetting, by building without erasing, by becoming something bigger while acknowledging what made you. That's the balance. That's the hard work, and it's worth it. At the end of the summer, Marcus approached Garrett. "Thank you for being honest about your mistakes, for not pretending you got it right. It helps to know even successful people struggled with this. I didn't struggle with it. I failed at it. Completely. 20 years of failure. Don't follow my path. But you're fixing it now, building this foundation, helping us. That counts for something. It counts for trying to make amends, but it doesn't erase what I did. doesn't bring my father back, doesn't give me those 20 years I wasted. What if your father could see you now? See what you're building? Would he be proud? Garrett thought about that, about his father working in the mines, about the letters, about the promise to Margaret. I hope so. I think he would be, but I'll never know. And that's my punishment. Living with not knowing, living with the uncertainty of whether I ever made him proud. Marcus nodded. I'm going to call my dad tonight. Tell him I love him. Thank him for working in the mines so I could have this scholarship because of you. Because I don't want to have that uncertainty. Good, do that, and keep doing it. Don't let a day go by without acknowledging what he's giving you. After Marcus left, Garrett stood on the porch of the farmhouse and looked out at the fields, at the students scattered across the property, at the life growing from his father's sacrifice, and felt something close to peace, not happiness, not redemption, but purpose. This was why his father had worked himself to death, for this, for opportunities, for futures, for kids who could escape poverty without forgetting where they came from. And Garrett was finally honoring that sacrifice. 1 year later, a letter from the past. The foundation had been running for 18 months when Garrett received a letter, handwritten, postmarked from Harlan County. Inside was a single sheet of paper, written in shaky handwriting. Dear Mr. Mitchell, my name is Samuel Creech. I worked with your father in the mines for 10 years. I'm writing because I have something I think you should know. Your father saved my life. 8 years ago, there was a collapse in Section 7. 3 men were trapped. Your father was supposed to be off shift, but when he heard about the collapse, he went back down into the unstable section to help dig us out. He spent 6 hours in hell, breathing coal dust, risking another collapse. Using his bare hands when the equipment failed, he got us out, all 3 of us. And 2 days later, we learned the effort had damaged his heart, the exertion, the stress. The doctor said he'd lost years of his life from that rescue. I asked him why he did it, why he risked everything for men he barely knew. He said, because my son is going to do important work someday, and for him to do that work, he needs to come from decent people, so I'm being decent. I'm being the kind of father he can be proud of, even if he never knows it. I'm writing to tell you this because I think you should know. Your father's sacrifice wasn't just financial. It was physical. He literally gave years of his life to save others, to be someone worth being proud of, and he did it thinking of you, hoping you'd be proud. Even though you never called, never visited, never acknowledged him. I'm not writing to make you feel guilty. I'm writing because I thought you should know what kind of man your father was, what he did, who he saved. I'm alive because of Thomas Mitchell. My kids have a father because of him. My wife has a husband because of him, and I'll spend the rest of my life grateful for his courage. I hope you find some comfort in knowing your father was a hero, not just to you, but to all of us who knew him. With respect, Samuel Creech. Garrett read the letter 3 times, then called information. Got Samuel Creech's number, called him. Mr. Creech, this is Garrett Mitchell, Thomas's son. Mr. Mitchell, I wasn't sure if you'd call. Your letter, the mine collapse, is that true? Every word. Your father saved my life, saved Pete Harrison's life, saved Mike Chen's life. We'd all be dead if not for him. And it damaged his heart? The doctor said so. Said the stress and exertion weakened it. That it would probably take years off his life. Your father knew. Did it anyway. Why didn't anyone tell me when he died? How would we? You weren't around, hadn't been for years. We didn't have your contact information, didn't know if you cared. The words stung because they were true. I cared. I was ashamed. Stupid and ashamed and proud. Your father never held it against you. Always said you were busy, important, building something that mattered. What I was building didn't matter. What he built Saving lives, keeping promises, being decent, that mattered. And honor it. Live like he lived. Value what he valued. That's how you thank him. I'm trying. Started a foundation. Scholarships for mining families, using his sacrifice to give other kids opportunities. He'd like that. He was always talking about how education could break the cycle, get kids out of poverty. Can I ask you something? Sure. Did he ever talk about me? About being hurt that I didn't call? Samuel was quiet for a moment. Once, after a particularly hard shift. He was exhausted, hurting, and he said, "I wonder if my boy ever thinks about me, if he knows I'm alive, if he cares." Then he caught himself, said, "But that doesn't matter. What matters is he's happy, he's succeeding, he's free." That was the only time I heard him admit it hurt. Garrett felt tears coming. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I hurt him, that I was too proud to call, too ashamed to acknowledge him. Tell him, not me. Go to where he died. Section 7 in the Apex mine. Tell him there. Let him know you understand now. Let him know it wasn't for nothing. The mine is still operating. Yes, and Section 7 is still the deepest, still the most dangerous, still where your father worked for 20 years. After hanging up, Garrett sat with the information. His father had saved lives, had literally shortened his own life to save others, and he'd done it thinking of Garrett, hoping to be the kind of father Garrett could be proud of. Even though Garrett had given him no indication he cared, no sign he was watching, no reason to think his decency mattered. Thomas had been decent anyway, had saved lives anyway, had sacrificed anyway, because that's who he was, not for recognition, not for thanks, but because it was right. And Garrett had been ashamed of him. The irony was almost unbearable. 2 weeks later, Garrett goes to the mine. Garrett drove to Harlan County, to the Apex Mining Corporation, asked to speak to the manager. "I'm Garrett Mitchell, Thomas Mitchell's son. I'd like to see Section 7, where my father worked." The manager, a man named Roberts, looked uncomfortable. "Sir, Section 7 is deep, dangerous. We don't typically allow visitors. My father worked there for 20 years, died from the strain. I want to see it. I want to understand what he endured. I'll sign any waiver you need." Roberts studied him. "Your father was a good man. Best worker we ever had. Never complained, never quit. If you're sure, I'll take you down." They suited up, hard hats, respirators, safety gear, descended in a cage elevator that dropped hundreds of feet into the earth. The mine was dark, hot, cramped. The air tasted of coal dust, despite the respirator. "Section 7 is another half-mile, Roberts said. "Through here." They walked through tunnels barely wide enough for 2 men, the ceiling so low Garrett had to crouch, the walls pressing in. The darkness absolute, except for their headlamps. Garrett felt claustrophobic, terrified, desperate for sunlight and open air, and his father had done this every night, for 20 years, for 8-hour shifts in this hell. They reached Section 7, a vast chamber carved from coal, black walls, black ceiling, black dust covering everything. "This is it," Roberts said. "Your father worked this section, cutting coal from that wall there, 8 hours a night, 5 nights a week, for 2 decades. Garrett looked at the wall, at the darkness, at the oppressive weight of earth above them. How did he stand it? Some men can't. They quit after a week. Your father never quit, never complained, just did his work and collected his pay and went home. And the collapse, 8 years ago? Over there." Roberts pointed to a section that had been reinforced. Ceiling came down, trapped 3 men. Your father was off shift, heard about it, came back down, dug them out with his bare hands when the equipment couldn't reach them. "Now show me where he died." Roberts led him to another section. "Here, 2 years ago, heart attack, massive. We tried CPR, but he was gone in minutes." Garrett stood where his father had died, in the darkness. in the cold dust, surrounded by the weight of the earth. "Can I have a moment alone? Sir, I can't leave you down here. Please, just 5 minutes. Stand at the entrance. I need to do this." Roberts hesitated, then nodded, walked to the tunnel entrance. Garrett stood in Section 7, where his father had worked, where he'd saved lives, where he'd died and spoke to the darkness. "Dad, I'm here, in the place you sacrificed yourself, in the hell you endured for 20 years so I could have better." His voice echoed off cold walls, swallowed by darkness. "I found the letters, Mum's letters, asking you to give me opportunities. Your letters to me that I never read. Your letter to Mom about keeping promises. I understand now what you did, what it cost, why you did it. You weren't just paying for my education. You were honoring Mom's dying wish, keeping a promise to a woman you loved more than life itself. And you did it perfectly. You gave me everything, every advantage, every opportunity. And I succeeded, exactly like Mom hoped. But I failed you, failed to acknowledge what you gave, failed to love you back, failed to be the son you deserved. I'm sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry for 20 years of silence, for being ashamed of you, for letting you die alone, for being too proud to admit I owed you everything. I can't undo it, can't bring you back, can't apologize while you're alive to hear it. But I can honor you, build something from your sacrifice, make sure other kids don't take their parents for granted the way I did. The foundation is working. We've helped 80 students, changed 80 lives, created 80 opportunities purchased with your sacrifice. And I'll keep building it for the rest of my life. Every student we help, every life we change, that's your legacy, not mine, yours. You planted trees you'd never sit under. Well, those trees are growing now, providing shade for kids who need it, creating futures you made possible. And every single one of them will know your name, know your story, know what you sacrificed. I'll make sure of it. I'll make sure Thomas Mitchell isn't forgotten, isn't just a name on a gravestone, but a hero, a father, a man who kept promises even when they killed him. I love you, Dad. I should have said it 20 years ago, should have said it every day, should have never stopped saying it. But I'm saying it now, and I'll keep saying it. For the rest of my life, I love you. I'm proud of you. I'm grateful for you. And I'm sorry I was too ashamed to see what I had until after you were gone. Garrett stood in the darkness, in the place his father had died, and felt something shift. Not forgiveness. He didn't deserve forgiveness, but acceptance. Acceptance of what he'd done, what he'd lost, what he could still build. Roberts came back. "We should go. Air quality drops after too long." They ascended, back to sunlight, back to fresh air, back to the surface. When Garrett removed his respirator, his lungs ached, his head hurt, his body felt poisoned, and he'd been down there 45 minutes. His father had done 8 hours every night for 20 years. "Thank you," Garrett said to Roberts, "for letting me see it, for showing me what he endured. He was a good man, best we had. I'm sorry you didn't know him better. So am I. But I'm getting to know him now, through the people he helped, the lives he touched, the legacy he left. That's something. It's all I have." 2 years later, the foundation transforms lives. The Thomas Mitchell Memorial Foundation had helped 200 students, changed 200 lives, created 200 futures that wouldn't have existed without Thomas Mitchell's sacrifice. Students started graduating, getting jobs, building careers, coming back to thank Garrett. One was Emma Chen, the girl who'd asked about being ashamed at the first ceremony. She'd graduated from MIT with a degree in engineering, got a job at Tesla, was making 6 figures at 23. She came back to the farm for the foundation's annual reunion. "I wanted to thank you," she said to Garrett, "for the scholarship, for the mentorship, for telling us your story, for not letting us forget where we came from. Don't thank me. Thank my father. He's the one who made this possible. I do thank him every day. I have a photo of his monument in my apartment. I look at it every morning and remember someone sacrificed for me, someone believed in me, someone gave me this chance. What about your father, the one still working in the mines? He's retiring next year. I'm buying him a house, getting him out of mining, out of poverty, out of the cycle. He must be proud. He is, but he's also sad. Says he wishes he could have done more, could have given me what I gave myself. Tell him he gave you everything. He gave you the work ethic, the character, the foundation. You built on what he provided. That's how it works. Generations building on each other. Did you tell your father that before he died? No, I didn't. And that's my biggest regret. But I'm making sure every student in this program tells their parents, thanks them, acknowledges them, so they don't make my mistake. Emma smiled. It's working. Half the students call their parents daily now. Some of the parents tell me it's changed their relationship, made their kids appreciate them. Good. That's the real legacy. Not the scholarships, not the money, but teaching kids to value the people who sacrifice for them. Over the next few hours, dozens of students approached Garrett, shared their stories, their successes, their gratitude. Each one represented a life changed, a cycle broken, a future built on Thomas Mitchell's sacrifice. And each one made the 20 years Garrett had wasted hurt a little less. Not because it erased what he'd done, but because it honored what his father had done. That evening, after everyone left, Garrett sat by his father's monument. The stone marked, "I'm planting trees I'll never sit under." 200 trees, Dad, Garrett said. 200 kids sitting under the shade you planted. 200 futures you made possible. 200 lives you changed. And I'm going to keep planting for as long as I live. For as long as the foundation exists. Your sacrifice will keep bearing fruit, keep creating opportunities, keep changing lives. That's your legacy. And it's better than any fortune I could have built. More meaningful than any success I could have achieved. You were right, Dad. Success isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in lives changed, in opportunities created, in sacrifices honored. And by that measure, you were the most successful man I've ever known. I wish I'd told you that while you were alive. Wish I'd acknowledged you, been proud of you, loved you back. But I'm telling you now, and I'll keep telling every student who walks through here. I'll make sure they know Thomas Mitchell's name, know his story, know what real success looks like. Thank you, Dad, for everything, for the opportunities, for the sacrifice, for loving me even when I didn't deserve it. I'm finally 20 years too late. The son you deserved. And I'll spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of what you gave me. 5 years later, Garrett's own health fails. Garrett was 50 years old when the doctors found the cancer. Pancreatic, stage 4. Inoperable. They gave him months, maybe a year if he was lucky. He'd spent 7 years building the foundation, 7 years honoring his father, 7 years trying to make amends for 20 years of shame. And now his time was up. He sat in the farmhouse, his father's house, now his, and thought about his life, about what he'd built, about what mattered. The foundation had helped 500 students, changed 500 lives, created 500 futures built on his father's sacrifice. It would continue after Garrett died. He'd set it up that way. Endowment, board of directors, infrastructure. Thomas Mitchell's legacy would outlive them both. Garrett had also reconnected with some of his Wharton classmates, told them the truth about where he'd come from, about his father, about the shame he'd carried. Some had judged him, some had understood. Most had been surprised. The successful New York executive had been a coal miner's son all along, and he'd hidden it for 20 years. But Garrett wasn't hiding anymore. wasn't ashamed anymore, wasn't pretending. He was Thomas Mitchell's son, raised on an Appalachian farm, educated with coal dust money, built on sacrifice, and he was finally proud of it. The students organized a vigil when they heard about Garrett's diagnosis. 200 of them came to the farm, former scholarship recipients, current students, kids whose lives had been changed. They sat around a bonfire, shared stories, talked about what the foundation had meant, what Garrett had meant, what Thomas Mitchell's sacrifice had created. Emma Chen spoke. She was 30 now, an engineer at Tesla, making important contributions to electric vehicle technology. Garrett told us on our first day, "Don't run so fast from where you came from that you forget the people who made your running possible." That's advice that changed my life, changed all our lives. We come from poverty, from struggle, from parents who work in dangerous jobs for little money. That could have been our shame. Instead, it's our strength, our foundation, our proof that we're loved. And that's because of Garrett, because he learned the hard way what happens when you're ashamed, when you forget, when you don't acknowledge sacrifice. He gave us his mistakes as lessons, his regrets as warnings, his father's story as inspiration. And now we're giving that forward. Every one of us calls our parents regularly, thanks them, acknowledges them, because Garrett taught us not to make his mistake. She turned to Garrett. "Thank you for your honesty, for your vulnerability, for showing us that even successful people struggle, that even smart people make terrible mistakes, that it's never too late to honor the people who gave us everything. You changed our lives, and we'll make sure your father's legacy lives forever." Marcus, the boy who'd asked about being ashamed 7 years ago, spoke next. He was 25, a teacher, working in an underfunded school in rural Kentucky. Garrett asked me at the first reunion if my father would be proud, and I realized I didn't know. Realized I'd been so focused on escaping that I'd forgotten to include him in my success. So I brought him to my college graduation, let him see me get my degree, let him understand that his sacrifice in the mines had created this, had made me possible. And he cried. My father, the toughest man I know, cried. Said it was the proudest moment of his life. That wouldn't have happened without Garrett, without this foundation, without the constant reminder to acknowledge, to thank, to honor. So thank you, Garrett, for teaching us to value our parents while we still can, for making sure we don't have your regrets. Student after student spoke, each one sharing how the foundation had changed them, how Garrett's story had impacted them, how Thomas Mitchell's sacrifice had created their futures. And Garrett sat there, dying, listening to the legacy his father had created. It was enough, more than enough. He'd wasted 20 years, but he'd spent 7 building something meaningful, 7 years making his father's sacrifice count, 7 years planting trees he wouldn't sit under, just like Thomas had done, like father, like son. Finally, 6 months later, Garrett's final days. The cancer moved fast. Garrett was bedridden within 3 months. Hospice nurses came to the farm, managed his pain, made him comfortable. He refused to die in a hospital, refused to die anywhere but the farm, the house where his father had lived, the land where his family's roots went deep. Students visited, dozens of them, coming to say goodbye, to thank him, to tell him he'd mattered. Emma brought her father, the coal miner who'd given her opportunities by working in darkness. "Mr. Chen," Garrett said from his bed. His voice was weak but clear. "Thank you for your daughter. She's extraordinary." "She is," Mr. Chen said, "and she's extraordinary because you gave her a chance, because you helped her when we couldn't. I didn't help her. My father did. Thomas Mitchell, coal miner, just like you. He destroyed himself so I could succeed, and I'm using that success to help other miners' children. It's all connected. We're grateful, more than we can say. Don't be grateful to me. Be grateful to your daughter for not being ashamed, for not running from you, for including you in her success. She did what I didn't. She got it right. After they left, Emma stayed. Are you afraid of dying? No. I'm afraid I didn't do enough. Didn't make my father's sacrifice mean enough. Didn't build something big enough to justify what he gave. You built something that changed 500 lives. That's not enough. I don't know. I spent 20 years being selfish and 7 being generous. Does 7 years of good erase 20 years of selfishness? I don't think it works that way. I think it's all just life. You made mistakes. You learned. You changed. You built something meaningful. That's what matters. I wish he could see it. See what I built from his sacrifice. See that it wasn't wasted. Maybe he can. Maybe wherever he is, he's watching. Proud of you. Glad you finally understood. I hope so. But I'll never know. And that's the hardest part. Living with not knowing. Dying with uncertainty about whether I ever made him proud. Billy Patterson visited, the miner who'd worked with Thomas for 15 years. Your father would be proud, Billy said without preamble, of what you built, how you changed, what you're doing with his sacrifice. How do you know? Because I knew him, knew what mattered to him. And it wasn't money or recognition. It was making a difference, helping people, creating opportunities. You're doing all of that. He'd be proud. I was such a terrible son for a while, but you changed. That's what he would care about. Not that you made mistakes, but that you learned from them, fixed them, became better. I wasted so much time. Yes, but you didn't waste all of it. You used the time you had left. That counts. Billy pulled out an envelope. Your father gave me this 15 years ago. Said if anything ever happened to him, if you ever came back, I should give it to you. What is it? I don't know. He sealed it, made me promise not to open it, just to deliver it if the time came. Garrett opened the envelope with shaking hands. Inside was a single sheet of paper, his father's handwriting. Dear Garrett, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and you've come back, and Billy has delivered this letter like I asked him to. I'm writing this 15 years after you left. 15 years of silence, 15 years of wondering if you're okay, if you're happy, if you think of me. But I'm not writing to make you feel guilty. I'm writing to tell you something important. I forgive you. For the silence, for the shame, for the abandonment, I forgive all of it. Because I understand why you ran, why you wanted to forget. Why this place and I represented everything you wanted to escape. I was poor, uneducated, trapped by circumstance. You had potential, intelligence, opportunity. Of course you wanted to leave. Of course you wanted more. And I wanted that for you too. Wanted you to escape, to build something bigger, to have the life I never had. So I'm not angry, I'm not hurt, I'm not disappointed, I'm proud. Proud you succeeded, proud you built something important, proud you became someone the world respects, even if that someone doesn't respect me, even if that success required forgetting me, that's okay, because I didn't do it for recognition, I did it for love, and love doesn't require reciprocation, doesn't demand acknowledgement, doesn't need thanks. Love just gives. And keeps giving, and never stops giving. That's what I did for you. Gave everything, expected nothing, and received exactly what I expected. But that's okay, because seeing you succeed, even from a distance, even through newspaper articles, that's enough. That's more than enough. So if you're reading this, if you've come back after I'm gone, know this. I loved you, always, without condition, without expectation. And whatever you did with your life, whatever you built, whoever you became, I was proud, even if you were ashamed of me, especially because you were ashamed of me. Because that shame meant you wanted more. And wanting more is how we build better futures. how we break cycles, how we give our children opportunities we never had. So use the opportunities I gave you. Build something meaningful, make a difference, help people, and maybe, just maybe, think of me once in a while. Not with guilt, not with regret, but with understanding. Understanding that what I did for you is what parents do. We sacrifice, we give, we love, and we don't expect anything in return, except maybe that our children are happy, successful, free, and you are all those things. So I died happy, knowing I gave you what you needed, knowing my sacrifice mattered, knowing the trees I planted are providing shade. Be good, son, be happy, be free, and don't waste your time feeling guilty about me. I lived the life I chose, made the sacrifices I wanted to make, have no regrets. My only wish is that someday, maybe too late, maybe after I'm gone, you'll understand what I did and why I did it. And that understanding will change you, make you value what matters, make you appreciate sacrifice, make you love without condition the way I loved you. That's all I ask. And if you're reading this, if you came back, if you're trying to understand, then my wish has been granted. I love you, Garrett. Always have, always will, even from beyond the grave. Dad Garrett read the letter through tears. His father had forgiven him, had understood, had loved him anyway, and had known, somehow known, that Garrett would come back, would understand, would change. Thomas Mitchell had planted one final seed. This letter, this forgiveness, this understanding, and Garrett was sitting under the shade it provided. He knew, Garrett whispered to Billy, he knew I'd come back, knew I'd understand eventually. He hoped, he believed, he trusted that love would win eventually. And it did. Too late, but it did. Better late than never. 2 weeks later, Garrett dies. Garrett Mitchell died on a Tuesday morning in November, peacefully, in his sleep, in his father's house, on his father's farm. 500 people attended his funeral, students, teachers, community members, people whose lives had been touched by the foundation. They buried him next to his father's monument. The symbolic grave marked, "I'm planting trees I'll never sit under." The new headstone read, Garrett Mitchell, 1982-2024, who finally learned to sit under trees others planted, and planted new ones for those who'd follow. Emma Chen gave the eulogy. Garrett Mitchell made terrible mistakes. He's the first person who would tell you that. He abandoned his father, was ashamed of where he came from, wasted 20 years being someone he hated. But he also changed, really changed. He tore down the empire he'd built on lies and built something real on truth. He honored his father's sacrifice by creating opportunities for others. He turned his regret into redemption. Not redemption in the sense of erasing his mistakes, but redemption in the sense of building something meaningful from the wreckage. The Thomas Mitchell Memorial Foundation exists because Garrett learned the hard way what happens when you forget where you came from. When you're ashamed of the people who sacrifice for you, when you value money over love. And now 500 students have learned from his mistakes. 500 families have been lifted out of poverty. 500 futures have been built on Thomas Mitchell's sacrifice and Garrett's atonement. That's a legacy, not perfect, not without regret, but real, honest, meaningful. Garrett used to say he'd wasted 20 years and only had 7 to make up for it. But I think those 7 years counted more than the 20, because they were built on truth, on values, on honoring the people who mattered. Rest in peace, Garrett. You finally became the son your father always believed you could be. And you did it by teaching us to be the children our parents deserve. After the funeral, the foundation board met, decided to expand, to build on what Garrett had started. They renamed the summer program the Garrett Mitchell Leadership Academy. expanded it to year-round programming, added STEM workshops, career counseling, mental health support. Everything Garrett wished he'd had, everything he'd wanted to give students. The foundation's endowment had grown to $25 million. Garrett's entire estate, everything he'd kept after the divorce, everything he'd earned, had gone to the foundation. He'd died with $50,000 to his name, everything else given away, just like his father had given away his future, his health, his life. Like father, like son, both planting trees they'd never sit under, both sacrificing for others, both building legacies that outlived them. Epilogue, 10 years later. The Thomas Mitchell Memorial Foundation celebrated its 17th anniversary. Over 1,200 students had received scholarships. Over 1,200 lives changed. Emma Chen was now the foundation's director. She'd left Tesla to run it full-time, to honor Garrett's memory, to continue Thomas Mitchell's legacy. She stood at the annual ceremony, held at the farm, which had been fully restored and now served as the foundation's headquarters, and spoke to new scholarship recipients. "I want to tell you a story," she said, "about two men, a father and son, Thomas and Garrett Mitchell. Thomas was a coal miner, poor, uneducated, disabled by coal dust. He spent 20 years working in the deepest, most dangerous mine sections to pay for his son's education, gave every penny he earned, destroyed his lungs, sacrificed his future so his son could have one. His son, Garrett, was ashamed of him, abandoned him, pretended he was dead, built a fortune on his father's sacrifice and never acknowledged it. For 20 years. Then Garrett came back to sell the farm, found letters revealing the truth, discovered what his father had given, understood too late what he'd lost. And he changed, really changed. He walked away from wealth, started this foundation, spent 7 years building something meaningful before he died of cancer at 50. Now you might hear that story and think, what a terrible son, what a waste of 20 years, what a tragedy. And you'd be right. It is a tragedy. Garrett would tell you that himself. But it's also a redemption story, because Garrett didn't just feel guilty, he acted, he built, he created opportunities for 1,200 students. He transformed his regret into something meaningful. And he taught all of us a lesson. Don't wait 20 years to acknowledge the people who sacrifice for you. Don't be ashamed of where you come from. Don't hide the truth about who made your success possible. Your parents are working hard jobs right now, sacrificing comfort, going without so you can have opportunities. They're destroying their bodies, their futures, their comfort for you. Don't take that for granted. Don't wait until they're gone to acknowledge it. Don't make Garrett's mistake. Call them tonight, thank them, tell them you love them, tell them you're grateful, tell them you're proud of them. Because the trees they're planting for you have value, real value, and you need to acknowledge that while they're still alive to hear it. That's Thomas Mitchell's legacy. That's Garrett Mitchell's lesson. That's what this foundation stands for. Sacrifice deserves acknowledgement. Parents deserve gratitude. Love deserves reciprocation. Don't forget that. Don't ever forget that. After the ceremony, Emma walked to the graves. Thomas's monument, Garrett's headstone. Side by side on the farm they'd both loved. "We helped 3 more students this year," she said to the stones. "All from mining families, all getting full rides, all learning about you, about sacrifice, about what matters. The foundation is strong, growing, sustainable. It'll outlive all of us. Your legacy will live for generations. Thomas, your sacrifice wasn't in vain. Garrett, your atonement mattered. Together, you've changed over 1,000 lives, and we're just getting started. Thank you, both of you, for teaching us what love looks like, what sacrifice costs, what legacy means. We won't forget, we'll make sure no one forgets. Your trees are growing, providing shade, creating futures, changing lives. and we're sitting under them, grateful, humbled, honored. Rest in peace, both of you. Your work is done. Hers continues. She placed flowers on both graves, Thomas's symbolic mound, Garrett's actual burial site, father and son, both heroes in their own way, both flawed, both human, both loved, and both finally at peace. End of part 2. Story complete. Sometimes we spend our whole lives running from the truth. Garrett Mitchell spent 20 years being ashamed of his father, then 7 years honoring him. The 20 years were wasted. The 7 years mattered, because it's never too late to change. Never too late to acknowledge sacrifice. Never too late to build something meaningful from regret. Thomas Mitchell worked himself to death in coal mines so his son could escape poverty. Garrett Mitchell used that escape to build an empire of lies, then tore it down and built something real. A foundation that changed 1,200 lives, a legacy that honored sacrifice, a truth that destroyed pride but built purpose. What about you? Are you running from where you came from, ashamed of your family, hiding the truth about who gave you opportunities? Have you forgotten to thank the people who sacrificed for you? Forgotten to acknowledge that your success wasn't built alone? Are you Garrett at 25, building wealth on shame? Or Garrett at 45, building meaning on gratitude? If this story spoke to you, if it reminded you that parents deserve acknowledgement, that sacrifice matters, that it's never too late to change, leave a comment. Tell us where you're from. Tell us who sacrificed for you. Hit that like button if you believe redemption is possible, that mistakes can be corrected, that 7 years of meaning outweigh 20 years of shame. Subscribe, because every week we bring you stories about people who learned hard lessons, about pride and humility, about running away and coming home, about the people who plant trees they'll never sit under. Thomas Mitchell destroyed his lungs in coal mines for a son who abandoned him. That son finally understood, finally changed, finally honored the sacrifice. Too late to apologize, but not too late to build something meaningful. 1,200 students now sit under trees Thomas planted. 1,200 futures built on his sacrifice. 1,200 lives changed by one father's love and one son's redemption. That's legacy, not perfection, not erasure of mistakes, but transformation, purpose, meaning built from regret. Call your parents tonight. Thank them for their sacrifices. Tell them you're grateful. Don't wait 20 years. Don't wait until they're gone. Don't make Garrett's mistake, because the people who plant trees for you deserve to see you sitting under them, deserve to know their sacrifice mattered, deserve to hear you say thank you while they're still alive to hear it. Thomas Mitchell never heard it, died believing his son was ashamed. Don't let your parents die wondering if their sacrifices mattered. Tell them, today, now, before it's too late. The next story will devastate you. Because while Garrett was discovering his father's sacrifice in Kentucky, something else was happening in Oregon. Another son, another inheritance, another secret. But this time, the father isn't a hero. He's a monster. Watch now. The CEO returned for the funeral and discovered his dead mother had been alive in the basement for 30 years. He thought his mother died when he was 8. His father told him she'd had an accident, that she was gone, that they needed to move on. For 30 years he believed it, built a career, started a family, lived his life. Then his father died, and he returned home to settle the estate, and found a locked door in the basement he'd been forbidden to open as a child. Behind it, his mother, alive, imprisoned, kept in darkness for 3 decades. Why? The truth will shatter everything you think you know about family, about evil hiding in plain sight, about the secrets we keep and the monsters who keep them. This isn't a redemption story. This is a horror story, a true horror, and it's waiting for you in our next video. Click now. The CEO returned for the funeral and discovered his dead mother had been alive in the basement for 30 years. Some secrets destroy lives. Some secrets are lives. And some fathers aren't worth honoring. They're worth exposing. Watch now if you dare.